all hear me? Okay. Somebody said their voice was bad, so you can relate to that. Just quickly, right? So I like to keep things very simple. So when I was coming to this particular talk, one of the things was you've all heard about smartphones, right? So in the concept of smartphones, what made smartphones useful? It's really the apps, right? So if you have, there have been several smartphones without apps or an ecosystem that have failed in the market. So very similarly, if you want to make AI useful, I think the means to that is AI agents, right? So that's what we'll talk about. Before that, a little bit of context. So I work in the retail industry space. Retail also intersects with many of our lives day to day, right? So I just thought of starting with that. So the first one you see a store, lots of clothes, right? What do? Do you walk away with the product you like? Likely not, right? So that's what I call as a paradox of choice. So if you have too much of choice, you'll likely not make the right one. So if you look at a variation of that, now you have an expert kind of guiding you through the process, right? What happens? You will likely walk out with the product that you want, maybe a dress for your party and things like that, right? So it really helps to have someone sort of help you through that process. So take this to the digital world. What happens? Again, the paradox has just worsened, right? So you have so much of choices. You have terms like doom scrolling and things like that, right? So that really doesn't help with your purchase process. So now what we can do is introduce AI agents, right? AI agents, I think many of the speakers before me, they had defined it. So I'll not go through the definition again, but basically if you look at it, it's gathering data about you and it's trying to present relevant options, in whatever shape or form you like so that you can complete your purchase process, get what you want at the end of the day, right? So that's what AI agents are all about. Now, I again, our company, we all develop software for a living. So if you look at customers, right, 10 years back, I was good, with getting my product delivered to my home in like 21 days. Now, how fast do you want stuff? You want in 10 minutes, right? So look at how customer expectations have evolved in a decade. And that's going to become even faster, right? So if you move forward. So now to keep up with that, your software development process will have to keep up with that, right? So for that, basically the challenge out here is threefold, right? So how do you get things faster to the market? How do you basically do it with quality without compromising quality? And then how do you focus on value? What makes sense for the customer, right? So those are the three dimensions that we want to look at. Now, we eat our own dog food first, right? So what we did was we wanted to speed up our software development process and we thought about what makes sense for it. So we gave all our different team members different AI tools, right? So let's say, an experienced designer is using Adobe Firefly, right? So, and a product manager uses Jira AI, so on and so forth, right? So if you have such an ecosystem, what really happens is you go back to that paradox of choice, right? There is no communication between team members. There is still, you've continued to have that communication gap problem. So what we have done is we have come up with a platform that kind of integrates the journey of a team, right, and applies the concept of generative AI behind the scenes. And through agents, we are able to sort of achieve that. So if you look at right now, all the different AI tools have vanished and we have created one platform. We call it Slingshot. And then if you look at what we had to do for it, right? So the first thing is we had to feed it expertise. So if you're working in the banking industry or retail industry, so on and so forth, right, you will actually have to have that expertise to be able to develop software for that industry. So that's what we had to feed it. The next one is context, right? So if you are writing code, what does best code look like, right? So that is something that you will have to sort of feed it as well. The other thing, which is the most important thing, is how do you ensure continuity, right? So let's say your experienced designer comes up with a screen, right? And your code developer actually develops code up, looking at that screen. What happens? What are the kind of issues that you face? End of the day, anybody? So I'm sure you all relate to it, right? So you'll have pixel issues, you'll have alignment issues, so on and so forth, right? Now, how do I carry that context? I can ask this particular slingshot agent saying that, hey, develop this code based on the screen design done by the designer, right? So that is what this platform is able to achieve. So obviously, we started with a hypothesis. I think somebody talked about ROI, right? So here, so we started off with a hypothesis saying that we could look at speeding up our software development process for about 50%, right? And this is what we are able to achieve. So across projects, we are able to get an efficiency gain of about 20 to 40%. So with that, I just wanted to end this. I know we are running out of time, but feel free to connect with me offline. I'm available on LinkedIn, and hopefully my voice was not a distortion. Thank you so much.